All right. Good evening. How's the audio sound? Hopefully everything is coming in and okay. Oh my god, I hear myself. That's not what I want to do. I guess that answers my question. How you guys doing tonight? Um, I see Brandon Spencer and Murphy's Law so far. How's it going? All right. So cool. Basically, I was not sure if I was going to go live tonight, but kind of want, just for the fun of it. Hold on. 5 by 5 here. Oh my god. That is what? Yeah, I don't know. Probably should have made sure I had my shit together more than I did. Anyway, um so I wanted you guys to accompany me on a little train of thought I've been having. Uh, Brandon Spencer, by the way, thank you for the information you sent me the other night. I've been looking into it, and that's actually what inspired the topic for this stream. Because this is YouTube, I can't go. I. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, Murphy's Law. I was like, oh my god, did I do something wrong? I was thinking aspect ratio or something. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, um, yeah, so we're gonna have Mary from Clown World Cousins join us in a few minutes, but so anyway, have you guys noticed that, like, I'm sure a lot of people have been talking about this, right? Like how, after everything that we've been put through in the past, like, almost 3 years at this point, how everything is just eerily eerily normal, if you know what I mean. It's like, as soon as they couldn't push the big C any further, they went straight back to the wars and the attacks and everything else. And looking into this other event with the things that go pew pew a little bit in the last couple of days, and kind of putting my notes down and stuff, because I don't know if the video that I'm making about that is gonna go, if I'm gonna post it, or if it's gonna go on YouTube, or if it's gonna go on BitChute. Oh my god, Uncool Paranoia, how you doing? How you been, man? It's been a while. I'm just talking about Clown World, you know, fucking Clown World, where just no matter how many times the elites repeat the same pattern, nobody seems to notice. Um, yeah, let me just scroll over a little bit. Murphy's Law says, okay, so I am doing a deep dive on these national emergencies. We still have ones active since 1953. Yeah, that's which one is that? Which one is that? If you don't mind sharing, Murphy's Law. Oh, thank you. EO signed from Nixon in 1972. Might explain that. Well, just for the hell of it. Oh, hey, it's Fluffy Maine Coon. Let me let him in too. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Oh,
Everybody
wonderful.
else?
Technology works. We should
Isn't it
have
wonderful?
another half joining us shortly.
Yeah.
So I just arrived and I did not hear your opening statements. So you will forgive my lack of general knowledge as to what the heck is going on right now.
Oh, that's okay. That's kind of how we live in the world, isn't it? We don't know. I mean, we know what the heck's going on, but at the same time, we really don't, because
Indeed.
we live in the whole matrix. And that's kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier. To sum it up, I was just talking a little bit about just some observations I've made
Uh-huh.
about how, in some ways, we kind of got some parts of the old world back, even down to those suspect little the events that keep happening with the things that go pew pew. You know, you got the
Oh
whole,
yeah.
yeah, that one. Brandon Spencer sent me some information that actually, oh, here she is. That actually got me thinking a little bit more about this topic, because I've been, kind of the last couple days, I've been reading some news coverage and writing some notes. And I don't know what I'm going to do with all that right now, but I just can't help but think that, cuz I'm sure you guys have noticed, like, the news cycle for the most part has gone pretty much back to what was quote unquote normal. I mean, yeah, they still kind of force the whole, they still, now they're talking about triple demics and stuff, and they're still trying to force that a little bit, but you don't see it as much, and I think even they know it's not going to go anywhere with anybody except for the complete loonies. So I've just been thinking about how, you know, it's almost like they're kind of lulling us back into the, see, you have your old world back, except it's not the old world, because it's, rapid inflation and all this other stuff, and who knows what else is coming up. But people are just kind of forgetting about it. And I think even the truth community, to an extent, is just, they got us all focused on, like, the same stuff we were talking about in the 2010s basically now, and
Yes.
we're just waiting on the next event, I guess.
Mm.
Uncool Paranoia says, like an eye of the storm, a type eerie vibe. Yeah, you're getting that too? Or false sense of normalcy?
Or the new normal, as it were.
Yeah, I don't know, Wheels. Oh my gosh. So I've been kind of mulling this around in my head also, because as a, truther,
Mm.
it's like we've been harping on the same crap for, I mean, I know you're way younger than I am. I feel like I've been harping on the same narrative for, I would say, since the 911 event,
Yeah.
when I started waking up. That was a really long time ago. But something I have noticed, where as far as the pew pew events and just violence. Okay, so we know with like the events with like the club that out there, and then there was a
Oh,
Walmart event.
you mean the one that just happened to be 6 years apart from the other one, that happened to
Mhm.
happen at a club queue with that
Mhm.
one pew pew device they seem to all like for some reason. And now we're talking about banning a certain kind of pew pews. Is that what you're talking about?
That is the one. That is the one I'm talking about. But
I hate having to skirt around stuff on here. It's so
I know.
frustrating.
Tap dancing. We're
I
like
know.
dancing queens up here trying to get around the algorithm. Um, but in the past couple of weeks, I feel like there's been so much violence in the news, and I've been trying to figure that out. Okay. So we have those two events,
Yeah.
but then we had the shooting, or sorry, darn
All
it.
right. You know what? It just is. It just is what it is. I'm surprised that after my last stream, the channel isn't gone. So, like,
All right. So then we had an event at a college in Virginia where three young men were, escorted out of their eternal realm. And then we had another event out in where was that? Iowa, where there wasn't even a pew pew involved. It was, another another thing involved. I don't know. I'm conflicted when you say, like, what was this? Order out of chaos or whatever you called it.
It's not order out of chaos. It's like a pattern of chaos. They kind of
We're just in chaos. I
yeah.
feel like we're just in chaos. And even though I know you're saying that you feel like we're being lulled back to sleep, I'm having a hard time feeling that way because in IRL, in my real life, I'm seeing people act psychotic. And then if I turn on the news, it's everybody's lost their freaking mind. So I just wanted
Well,
to put that out
yeah.
there.
I don't disagree with that, but what I was trying to get at is that, like, it's just a more exaggerated, like, I don't know how to explain where I was going with this, but it's like you have people forgetting about the massive government overreach, and I'm just saying, like, in the truther realm, like, I think this is what this psyop specifically of suddenly getting everyone to forget about the like past 3 years of psyoping that's been going on, and so they got people kind of forgetting about that, and then now people are kind of being a more exaggerated version, because I believe that was designed to bring the worst out of everyone psychologically, and it did, and now we're dealing with the effects of that, and we're and like some of the people in chat were saying, like, obviously the inflation is a real and heavy burden, so you have people's security gone, you have people kind of pretending the last 2.5 3 years didn't happen, and you have, like, people going crazy, because obviously, like, even even with, like, all the engineered stuff going on, and that some of these events being a little bit fishy,
Mhm.
there's still just tons of crazy around. There's people just getting escorted off earth everywhere, either by other people or by a certain type of juice that people were
Mhm.
forced to take, or some people wanted to take, and it's just like, I don't know, but I'm saying in the truther realm, like, how you were saying that we've been harping on the same stuff for years and years and years.
Mhm.
They're kind of I feel like they're kind of pushing us back to that, where they want us to harp on all the old things again, because a lot of our missions, like, I remember when I like back in the 2010s, all I was ever telling anyone about, in my, like, to the point of pissing off just about everyone I knew at one point, like, it was the Agenda 2030 and everything that was going to be coming up now and everything that was going to happen then and all this stuff, and we just been harping on all of that, and it occurred to me a while ago. I'm like, man, we're not focusing on what's actually here right now.
Mhm.
And we spent all the time that we had in the 2010s, where it would have been a lot easier to deal with this issue. We spent all this time talking about what's happening now.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think has it become almost our security blanket that we're all so traumatized we can't, or I don't want to say we, because I feel like, people that listen to you or people who listen to me, they're like trying to figure this crap out. They're living in real time, but it's almost like I feel like for some conspiracy theorists, I'm not judging everybody, It's a security blanket. Let me go back to what I know. Is that what you mean? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's what I'm talking about. We're being lulled back into that false sense of, oh, I can talk about this war, or I can talk about this or that, and not have to think about all the other stuff that's going on. Like, that's kind of where it was poorly worded, but that's kind of where I was trying to get with what I was saying. It's just like, because I think, because I remember, late 2019, early 2020, I remember how I felt, back then, where it was so surreal. It was so surreal to me that, like, they were actually going to pull this angle right now, that I didn't even know what to do, and I just started freaking out, trying to tell everybody. And I'm sure, like I don't know where how you reacted when you first saw kind of the corona narrative building up, and as you were watching everything that unfolded from that. But I know how I felt, and I've just been sitting. I just, like, literally sat there and thought about, like, oh my god, everything I had all these years, and everything that I kept telling people was gonna happen is happening now. What the heck do I do? How do I deal with this? How are people around me not seeing it? And I just remember, like, I went through, like, a really, really long spiral with that. Just knowing that all this time we were just talking about all this stuff. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And it has. And now we're just.
Now what? We're just standing there like with now what? What next? But I'm sorry. Did
Yeah,
you have
I
something to
mean,
say, Fluffy Mancun?
yeah, I mean, and harping back on what was mentioned earlier about the chaos and the like, what I fear is not necessarily the chaos, because nature sort of abhors the chaos. It's not natural. Order is natural. It's the order that follows the chaos. So what we had some bit of chaos, and then we had the powers that be imposing an order upon the world, really. A new one, if you want to say it that way,
Oh
which
yeah,
most
the
people
new one.
complied with, most people complied with quite willingly. So once that sort of uh, dry run was accomplished, now we're falling back into the stage of chaos again. And just like if you look back in history, and some people might say, oh, well, history is all a farce or what have you, but there is collective conscious, sort of racial conscious, with people understand histories and people who have been at the events. You see that these periods of chaos are really followed by, in particular, monsters, usually that occur. And by monsters, I'm not talking, centaurs or what have you. I'm talking political monsters, your Third Reich, your communists, your Soviets, your Pol Pot, your Maos. That's what happens after a period of giant chaos, which I think we're heading towards, and people feel it. And what's going to happen is, I think you're due for your monster. That's where we're in this cycle that's constantly occurring.
I I I agree with that. That's definitely. It's like what Uncool Paranoia said. I think before you came in, it's the eye of the storm. It's the, like, how when hurricanes happen, you have this crazy, crazy, crazy storm for a little bit, and then it gets really calm, but you know not to go outside because any second it's gonna start raining and wind's gonna start back up and all that stuff.
Yes, and the
That's
second wall is the more dangerous wall of a hurricane. That's the other thing. I love that analogy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so now I'm just kind of sitting here and thinking, like, okay, now what do I do? Because I think, because the other fear that I have is, I noticed that COVID woke a lot of people up, which is great. You know, I see posts all the time about, oh yeah, COVID made me realize this, this, and this, and this. And then now I'm kind of sitting here thinking, like, okay, so if COVID is what woke them up, and now, like, you can, and I'm kind of putting myself in the thought process of the average person right now, even the average truther. COVID is what woke people up, and you got a bunch of baby truthers out there, and then suddenly all the COVID stuff is gone, and it leaves like kind of residual stuff in society, but it's mostly gone. How many of those people are going to fall back asleep the same way they did when, you know, when Trump got into office? Because Trump put a lot of people back to sleep.
Well, I think that's a great point. To Mary's point too, I think a lot of truthers who were truthers even before this period are going to be lulled back into their old frameworks that are not necessarily compliant with the new framework that has been that's been rolled out by the powers that be. And there are certainly a lot of it. I remember with the Ron Paul community, you had tons of people. I actually went to one of the, when I was political like that, I actually went to one of the electoral sessions to be an elector to get him some electoral some votes for the nomination. And I saw the people that were energized there, and then they were just gone the next year. You had people who had bursts of enthusiasm, and I think that's the case here. That you have people bursts of enthusiasm. Hey, this governmental overreach with this beer bug thing, and then they're just going to lull away. And similarly, I think a lot of truthers are going to lull away into the old sort of paradigm of, let's talk about this stuff that's 30 years old that isn't, or 40 or 100 years old that isn't happening now.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with this whole thing, because I've just been kind of noticing. I've been noticing, now they got all these events happening that truthers are gonna pick apart, and they're like, a lot of people I don't think are seeing the forest for the trees, like. So I don't know. I'm just very concerned with how many people many people I think are going to peel away, because I think, during COVID, I think we all kind of unite. A lot of us truther people kind of united. Like, everybody and their mother was trying to get the truth out about that. But now they're kind of throwing a lot of different things out at us. That these guys are going to focus on one. Those guys are going to focus on the other. Those guys are going to focus on the other.
Yes, wheels. That is so true. All right, so we had one unified group that is now being splintered in all these different directions. Like, I will say I have a vast interests, like a vast array of interests. So I like prepping. I'm seeing a lot of newbies that just went through what we just went through, and now they're new to the prepping community. I see a lot of people that are like, let's just say end timers, like Book of Revelation people, newbies that are now coming to the Book of Revelation, and they're like, oh, what is what is this? And it's becoming almost like a tactile response, a spiritual response. The people who just won't see it, they're like, oh, that's over, get over it, And I don't know, I have a feeling there's a fourth group I'm missing, but I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that. It's like what Fluffy was just saying. It's like we had this unified group. And not to make it political, but Ron Paul was an independent candidate, and the Republicans, like, we were both very Republican before Ron Paul, they all turned on us and they said, you're splintering, you're splintering the vote. You're splintering the vote. And it's hard when you hear that, because you're like, I'm voting my conscience. it's like, yeah, I don't know how to wrap my head around this new splintering group, right? Where do we all fit? We all saw something just happened. A bunch of us, I would say 3 out of the 4 groups are trying to be, to use kind of a stupid word, but proactive going forward. I don't know. I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, and then to go to your point on the I want to kind of tease out the Revelation people thing.
Sure.
Now, I am not at all saying that we are not living in the end times. That is not what I'm saying at all. For all
Oh,
I know, for all I know that, that could be coming. You know what I mean? But it could be coming tomorrow, could be coming 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or after I'm dead, or at just any time. It comes like a thief in the night. So I can't, I can't say whether we're getting into the end times, but I think a lot of the people that are, they're laser focused on the end times. I think that is another form of security blanket that's come up.
ooh.
Yeah, I would have to
I was
agree
about to
with
say,
that.
Wheels. I wasn't saying that either because I got defensive there for a second. I'm glad I didn't interrupt
Mhm.
because you are right. Sorry, Fluffy. Go ahead. You were about to speak on that.
Oh no, ladies first, of course.
I'm done. Thank you.
Oh no, I was going to say it's a very similar concept as to going back to the old truther arguments. It's like, okay, well, this is all going to end soon, so I don't have to worry about what's going to happen because he's going to come back and right it all. That's a very that's a very comforting way to think, of course.
For
But
sure.
then there's the other side of the coin, which I think a lot of people may subscribe to, in particular in the prepping community, which is, well, you know what? Nobody knows what his, and I'm talking capital H, tribulation will look like, and how long it will last, and what the ultimate tribulation is, no matter what your theory is on it. So we haven't been through the starvation of a post-war period. This country hasn't felt the sting of war really since the Civil War, and that was only the South, really, limited incursions of the North. We have no concept, at least in the United States, of what it's like to be downtrodden and under the foot of an enemy or anything like that. And we don't have the natural disasters even that they have in the rest of the world. So
Mm,
just think of the things that are happening in the rest of the world right now that are normal for some of those areas happening here. And that's still not the tribulation, I don't think. Things can get a lot worse, and I think they probably will before we ever reach that tribulation. My personal thought process. And there's
yeah.
going to be a lot more suffering.
Yeah, for sure. But even let's say for a second that it's coming. It's coming in with like sometime very very soon. Let's say for just a second that's true, right? So here's my question to those people. Here's what I always say to those people that try to convince me that, this is it, we're in the tribulation period and all this stuff. I always tell them, like, okay, let's just say that's true. Do you really think that Jesus would not have a problem with you sitting around and just allowing the
Mm,
evil because he's going to come back and he's going to right all the wrongs? No, until the day that he's in my view, until the day that he sets foot there on the mountain or wherever he's supposed to come back, until the day he sets foot here, it is our responsibility to right the wrongs. It
right.
is our
Correct.
responsibility
Yeah.
to be accountable ourselves and keep others accountable, keep our communities accountable. It is your responsibility, my responsibility, everyone's responsibility to make sure that the impact that that we have any control over in the world of evil is minimal. Because like if I don't know, even with simple things, like if I see a homeless guy that needs something and he asks me and I have like an extra jacket or something like that, I'm supposed to give that to him.
Hmm.
I'm supposed to give that. I'm supposed to give my extra protein bar in my backpack to him if he's hungry. That's what I'm supposed to do. So even simple things like that, we're supposed to be, if like, if you, whatever people believe, because I know I have, a whole spectrum of people in my audience, but like I'm just saying, if we're living in these times, that does not give anybody an excuse to sit around and do nothing when there are things that you could be doing for your community to hold them accountable, hold yourself accountable, and stop, like,
Presuming.
minimize the impact of evil in your community, in your bubble, in your whatever.
I was going to say, stop presuming you know what tomorrow's going to bring. Stop presuming you know. What if, that poor homeless person, like you used that as an example? What if, Jesus doesn't come back tomorrow? You're going to let him freeze? You're going to stop presuming you know what tomorrow is going to bring. And there is a watchfulness and a readiness. And I'm just speaking as a Christian and the scripture on what you're saying, not to turn this into like a scripture study or anything, but even scripture itself tells these people to always have their lamps lit, and that doesn't mean just sitting around doing nothing. I mean, there were in that very parable women who didn't have their lamps lit. So anyway, I'm not I'm not getting into all that right now, but
Yeah,
I think it
that's
is a presumption of I know what's going to happen, so therefore I have no responsibility to anybody else, as far as their kind of physical needs. And it turns almost into a self-centeredness, I would say.
yeah,
But
I would say in a lot of cases it is. It's just, because when you're doing something is wrong, and you're not trying to be in tune with your conscience or whatever, you're going to come up with all kinds of justifications in your mind for why you're not going to why you're not going to care about your neighbor. But the truth is, like, it shouldn't matter to you whether you know for a fact that Jesus is coming back tomorrow. It should matter that you're doing the right thing always. And that's it. You
yeah,
know.
and him coming back tomorrow isn't a cop out for you doing nothing. But I'm gonna.
Exactly. But for a lot of people it is. For a lot of people, unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are going to have a few things to explain when they get up there, and the only thing the only thing we can hope is that we're not one of those people with a lot to explain, I guess.
Well, I think you're right too, and you sort of nailed on something that it is sort of a presumption of disengagement that occurs, is that I don't have to engage in the system anymore or anything because this is going to end soon, and also there's I'm helpless and powerless to correct it. So then you have a situation where people will just not want to do anything and not take part of take part in any form of society, not take part. People say, oh, well, it's all fake, so I don't have to take part in it, and I don't have to do anything. So I do think that is definitely a danger of what happens. And I think that happens just maybe there's sort of these, what I would call maybe secular truthers, that it probably happens in too, that they're just sort of like, well, everything's fake now. So I don't have to partake, which is another sort of level of the, oh, well, it's all going to end now anyway, so I don't have to deal with anything. But ultimately, you are responsible for your fellow man to some degree, and there's going to be problems if you don't take care of your fellow man. And I'm not spouting communism or anything like that. Just general self-respect for your people.
It's just that as humans, and this should not be at all considered communism, but unfortunately, there are some people that will unironically say that, believing you should take care of other people to the best of your ability. And I'm not saying that people should put themselves into hardship for other people. Like, I'm not saying, like, if I only have one jacket and it's 30 degrees out, that I should go give it to someone else. But, like, what I am saying is that as humans, especially humans that have been blessed with extra, we have to like, we have to know that if we were in that, it's just something basic as empathy. If we were in that situation, we'd want somebody to give us, that extra protein bar, that extra coat, or some extra help with something. Maybe even like stop on the side of the road because you blew a tire.
Yeah, I mean,
See,
this is the
like even
insidiousness of.
the basic empathy I've noticed is just completely gone in people. A lot of people that used to consider themselves empathetic and maybe used to be, I feel like a lot of people lost that, that empathy.
Yeah, I do think that, there is a danger there's two things. One is, I think, .gov and the forced charity, for lack of a better phrase, has done a lot
Absolutely.
to take away the true charitable nature of people, because some people may legitimately look at that person and say, oh, well, the government's going to take care of them, so I don't have to give them anything. The other thing is, I think that some of the community has adopted this leftist mentality of demonizing those who are different and saying, oh, well, you know what, it does, especially in the truther community with what happened with the beer bug. It's like, oh, well, those people, they took the jab, or they're wearing the diaper, what have you, and they're awful, so I don't need to deal with them. And it's like, well, you have to actually have some pity and some
Mm.
the human feeling for them, and saying, yeah, you know what, there was some these people were deceived, and it's not because they're idiots per se. It's because there may be some idiots there, maybe there were,
I totally disagree,
but
Fluffy. But
you're
go
saying
on.
that all of them were idiots? Every single person who got the jab or was wearing a diaper was an idiot? I think that's far-fetched.
I think in the beginning they may have come at it from a fearful stance, like, oh, I'm afraid, I don't know what's going on. We all saw the video footage of people dropping dead in the streets or whatever. But after a while, I still see people playing along with the narrative. But please continue your thought.
Oh, well, my thought is that a lot of these people were deceived, and these people are lulled into this uh narrative, which with what they watch and what they do. And I don't know if your parents, maybe some of your parents are plugged in still to the television, and they'll see this and be parroted back what's come in. And it's not for sake of a lack of raw intelligence, it's just that the propaganda is so bloody effective on people, and that it takes a lot sometimes to wake somebody up. So I think that this whole demonizing of somebody and calling them, an idiot or what have you, is a little bit harsh for what actually happens. And again, it goes against the charity that I think there's two forms of charity, right? In my mind, there's the charity where you give somebody the cloak off your back, and then there's a charity where you give them the benefit of being a human being and the decency and respect that they deserve of
You're
being a human
saying
being.
give them the benefit of the doubt in this instance, and I'm
That's not
giving
that's
them
not
the
necessarily what
benefit
I
of the
said.
doubt.
That's
All
not
right,
necessarily
I'm
what I
not going to
said. I
argue with
said
you,
the
Mike.
decency
Whatever.
that they deserve as human beings.
All right, even though they're making, I have a really hard time with that. I'm going to let Wheels. Oh, Wheels muted himself. Wheels left his own live.
I'm still here. I just didn't want to make any background noise while I was.
He was too busy cursing one of us.
Wheels is like, I am so not getting in between these two.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
wanted to
oh, go
let
ahead,
you
Wheels.
guys kind of finish your debate because, like, but
I'm,
now I'm gonna kind of add in with what I'm thinking
mhm.
doing with this. Um, I feel like there were a lot of really stupid people here. And, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think that the average person really looks at things beyond a very, very surface level. And the more I interact with people, the more I feel that way. Now there are some things I wouldn't call everybody an idiot, but I wouldn't say they were all, you know, I wouldn't give them all excuses either. Especially not the people that were, you know, that were out, I don't know, forcing people to wear masks, forcing people to get juice, you know, or disinviting their family members from the family reunion, or keeping their grandkids from their grandparents. I don't I'm less charitable toward them. But like, you know, some people, I don't think we can really, I feel like people that are wearing the diapers at this point in time, I'm just like, your brain, it is gone. I'm sorry. I am rip your brain. Rest in peace. You know, rest in peace. If you're still wearing, if every time I go to a grocery store near my house, I see you wearing a mask, I'm just gonna pray for you. I'm just gonna be like, rest in peace to your
Yeah.
brain, buddy.
I
My
feel like
condolences.
those are the people. There's a lot like Fluffy did bring up you know, the programming and stuff that a lot of people are dealing with through media and stuff like that. That'll give them. But there is also this other demographic. There's so much psychology going on here, and I'm not a psychologist, disclaimer, but there's so much psychology that when I'm out and I see a young woman wearing the mask, it's like, why won't she let it go? What is in her psychology that she loves this so much she's not letting it go? All right. If I see an old person doing it, I'm just assuming they think it's 2 years ago. You know, God only
Yeah.
knows what's going
I
on with
mean,
these
to be
old
fair,
people.
with older people, I tend to have a little bit more sympathy because, you know,
Same.
I have a grandmother who, you know, rheumatoid arthritis, is on a bunch of immunosuppressants, is probably dealing with some lung cancer stuff. So I can understand why she might still wear a mask out in public. She's, you know, if you're 80 years old and you're genuinely dealing with a trash immune system and you've been sitting here being like, because you got to also figure too, a lot of especially older people, what do you think they were doing the entire time they were stuck in the house during lockdowns? They were glued to the
Mm,
TV. The TV was their only companion. I know that was the case for my grandparents because I used to, you know, I started calling them almost every week when they were, you know, dealing with the lockdowns and feeling afraid to leave the house. So I listened to what they were saying, and you know they were terrified, and it just I'm not even, I don't even get upset at older people. I'm just angry that there were people that stuck them in the house with 6 months for,
ugh.
you know, with nothing but their television.
So, can I just chime in one more time and then I'll shut up, I promise.
Hmm.
So, my parents are very different. My dad is a news watching. My dad's the type of, you know, my parents, by the way, I'm an older woman. So, my parents are 80. So, but my dad's the type of person who will call me in the morning because he's always in front of the television set and he's going to give me the weather. And he's like, you know, it's going to rain. It's going to get real cold. You know, he's an 80-year-old dude. He's also the type of person when my sisters, I have two other sisters that take him out once a week each. he'll go and he'll be like, "Wait, do we have a mask?" And they're like, "No, no, no, Dad, we don't need that anymore." But then my mother, who is also 80 years old, is kind of a truther, truther granny. And she's up there being like, I've lived my life. I'm not I'm not playing along with this. If I die, if I die, I die. I've lived my life. But what this is doing to my grandchildren. So she's seeing all of this through a lens more of like the agenda. Whereas my dad, he's just like, oh, we're doing this because the news said we're, doing this. So I do understand both. Once again, I understand both sides where there can be resentment for the elderly. I know that sounds so sick. Sorry. That does sound sick, that there can be a resentment there, because I've a mother and a father, they're two sides of like kind of the same, I don't know.
Two
But
sides of the coin, two
yeah,
opposites.
like my mom's on one side, like I lived my life. I'm not playing along with this bull crap. I got grandkids and what's this doing to them? And then on the other hand, I have my dad who probably never broke a rule in his entire life, to be honest. And he's like, "Oh, wait, where's my mask?" And it's up to my sisters to be like, "Oh yeah, no, Dad, you're fine. Don't worry about it." So, just to put that out there.
Okay,
As
So
let me just chime in with
Sure.
something real quick. So one of the things that I was gonna say too is like, yeah, it is down to the different psychology, which is why I'm hesitant to just call everyone stupid. There are stupid people. There, obviously there's a lot of stupid people. I walk into the friggin' grocery store in California and I still see people wearing masks 3 years later. Those probably stupid people if they're young and wearing a mask. Stupid people. Okay? Most likely. But, that's the thing, is we do have to be mindful of what different psychological factors, cuz the programming was very effective for a lot of people, but it's meant to hit people in different ways. Like,
yes,
it's meant to play on, if you're a fear dominant person, meaning the strongest factor in your life is fear, that's what they're going to do. If the strongest factor in your life is looking virtuous, that's the level that it's going to hit you on. It's like there are different like
well,
types
and
of
oppression. If you're an oppressive type person, that's what it hit you on as well. If you're one who likes
yeah,
oppressing
exactly.
others.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out, and we can continue on that after I point this out. But Mary was just talking about the resentment toward older people, and I actually wanted to piggyback off that a little bit, because we've had resentment of older people building up for a while. We had the okay boomer, and if you go online, there's like, some kind of nasty rhetoric toward boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you got to figure, what if the way that COVID was marketed to everyone was actually meant to play on and build more of the resentment toward the people they wanted to get rid of? So, figure the old, the sick, cuz at first everybody was all, "Oh yeah, we got to protect them. We got to protect them. And yeah, I'll stay home for a little while to protect my grandma." And then by the time people were getting what they were calling COVID fatigue, they were kind of getting mad at people who were, you know, old and sick or whatever, and then they would be put all over the news and and the media would be like, "What about your grandma? And what about this sick person and that disabled person and this person here and that person there?" To the point where it was building resentment against them. And what did all those people that they were using to push the mandates have in common? They were all people that are physically weaker in some way. So there's your eugenics. That's what it was meant to do. It was meant to build It was meant to build that resentment so that when people started dying off, people would feel less bad about it. Maybe. That's my thought.
Well, I think you're correct there in pointing to the eugenic aspect of it, and I do think that the elderly, in particular, has a number of groups that are targeted for elimination. And I'll use the word elimination these days. You hear, if you've ever gone on an abortion debate, the first thing you hear about is a kid with birth defects. Well, why don't you just abort them? I need to be able to abort them. It's like, yeah, because you want to eradicate people who are a quote unquote drain in society. Elderly, in their mind, are a drain in society. They're taking up their social security payments. They're going to be a drag on that system. And on socialized medicine, once that becomes a full reality, they're going to be a total drag on that. This, I think, 100% did feed into that general hatred of the groups of people who are not quote unquote fit. And the elderly is the number one group right now that they've been tagging. And it's slowly, the marginalization of the elderly has been going on for years. In the jitterbug commercials and things like that. Well, they're too stupid to dial a phone. We got to give them big numbers on their phone. And once you start to marginalize the group, the next stage is elimination generally. When in this realm that we're in. So yeah, I think they're marginalizing. Now you get the resentment stage, and now you get the resentment stage, and then you get the elimination stage, where it's okay to, grandma and grandpa, and look at where where a lot of the deaths were with the beer bug were in these old age mills that they send people into to just die. And you had complacent states in Massachusetts and New York where hundreds of elderly people were dying in these homes that they crammed them into with insufficient, apparently, according to reports, you believe the reports, apparently, according to the reports, that they were just dying off like anything. So
yeah, and
I would agree.
They were blaming the Rona, but here's the thing: even New York and New Jersey were both doing the same thing. In New Jersey, there was a big scandal where they were putting the elderly into these mills, and those people were passing on. And of course, they were talking about the things that weren't necessarily present, like, or I don't know. I would say like there's the things that were lacking in elder care and stuff like that. And I actually know somebody. She's she was a stroke survivor, and she actually ended up, it was really screwed up, the situation she ended up in that home for. But you just kind of like sent him off there, and every time I would check on her, she'd be like, "Oh my god, another one just died. It's horrible here, and there's neglect and all this stuff." And then I feel like a lot of that was also blamed on that beer bug, as we're calling it, too. So we have no idea how many of those elders were actually just escorted off Earth on purpose.
Okay. Hold on. Can I say something?
Go for it.
I was just going to ask you. We were talking a little bit, maybe a couple of days ago, about this the good nurse story, and I think this is totally applicable.
Hold on, I have something else to say there. I'm taking notes so I don't interrupt. All right. Again, a child of the 90s. We would be in school, and I'm sure, Fluffy, you may remember this. The whole, for us, it was the Social Security and what the baby boomers were going to do to the Social Security system. So that agenda of like, I'm sorry, my throat, I'm getting sick. I'm not getting sick. I'm getting well.
She's got the beer bug. Get away.
I'm speaking into the universe. I'm getting well. But that agenda started a long time ago. And I think Wheels did hit the nail on the head there. I guess I didn't think of it from that perspective, but when he was talking, I was like, wait a second. Yeah. Yeah. We all like, they're going to be such a leech on the system. I'm going back to the 90s on this. The other thing is the homes. Now, I'm going to try to not talk out of school here too much, but I have a very close friend who's a funeral director. And at this man's funeral home, they were getting a lot of people coming in, and the death certificate said one thing, but then they're looking at the deceased and they're like, this person looks like they were starved. This person looks like this. This person looks like that. And yes, they also did have accounts of having a hard time embalming because of certain clots and things like that. So I think kind of my conclusion on all of it is that maybe when this hit, I can't imagine people that work in these facilities are that evil. I do think there are evil ones, like Fluffy just said, the movie The Good Nurse, which I only watched as a true crime movie. But we do know there's sickos in these fields. But the only thing I can wrap my head around is that these people were afraid. The people that worked there were so afraid that they neglected their patients. And I think same thing probably happened in the other system there with, the RX involved. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wasn't saying that they were all that evil. I was just saying with the narrative there were a lot of things that happened that were blamed on one thing and they ended up being the other thing. Like just like what you were saying, which I think is a very good point that definitely needed to be vocalized. And just real quick, hello Guacamole Kid and Sarah Foster. Good to see you guys. So anyway, yeah, absolutely. This is just kind of, but it's softening people up to the idea of death or exiting. Just just happening because we just don't have the resources for this person, because that's really what it comes down to. They scared the living crap out of nursing home workers to such a degree that they were afraid to go in, and then all of a sudden all these old elderly people were passing on because they were saying, "Oh, we just didn't have the resources to take care of that." And then they were putting people that supposedly had the bug in with the other people, which cuz they didn't have enough resources to keep them in other homes, so we had to put them in those positive people in with the non-sick people.
I'm just
another thing
laughing at Guacamole Kid. We should be able to rely on the coroner's interpretation. Should we? Obviously, you're not into true crime, but go ahead. Sorry, Fluffy.
Yeah, first he put Shark Attack, and then he changed it to Boating Accident.
Exactly. I mean, you can see it in the movie Jaws right there.
But I think what I was saying is, I think another interesting aspect of this whole nursing home thing is how, when they introduced these mandates, and you had a lot of, I would say, probably the good or better or more seasoned or open-minded sort of nurses who had to quit and leave because of the mandates that they had to get Fauci ouchies or what have you. And then you were left with just, I would call the zealots, the medical, if we'll put it in quotes, zealots, who were just going to follow the protocols that they were told to follow.
Those people, the oppressive personalities and stuff.
Yes.
that I think was the point of the healthcare mandate happening
Mhm.
first.
Yeah.
Was that they wanted to make sure that any healthcare worker that didn't go along and toe the line and care about those kickbacks, if you get what I'm saying, they wanted to make sure that those people were the only ones that you can get medical advice from now. The people that are willing to go along with everything, buy it hook, line, and sinker, and nothing else.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. It was a culling. I believe it definitely was a culling.
oh, for sure.
Of
That's
vocations,
why.
I think it was a culling of vocations. I believe that people have vocations in life, that God gives them a a profession in some ways that they were meant to do. And I think doctor is one of those things where that's your vocation. And I think it was purging of God-given vocations for a
Oh
lot of
my
these people.
gosh.
That
Amen.
is true. Because then you got to figure this part, right? We all know, we all kind of know about this whole, because this is another layer to that. Because I think this is the first phase. This culling of vocations is the first phase of something else, which is, kind of leading us more to the takeover of the machines. I think because eventually, when they destroy all of the different vocations, they're gonna replace it with something and all that stuff. By the way, I just want to say, Murphy's Law, you're kind of preaching to the choir here, and you should also probably be careful what you're putting in my chat, because for the time being at least, I would like to have this channel. So, I don't know, man. But we all kind of, you're talking to a lot of people that sort of, we know. We've been watching. You're kind of preaching to the choir, as it were, and I don't
Yeah,
mean to
I
be
feel like
rude.
we kind of take in information and we're going, I don't want to say next level on the information because that's flattering ourselves, but yes, we are
Mhm.
great researchers, all of us.
Yeah,
But
we're trying to we're trying to take the information here and sort of take, I would take it, because I don't want to say next level, because yeah, that's a very poor choice of wording, but
sorry.
what I would put what I would say is, we're taking this information and we are trying to carry it to its logical conclusion. That's what we do. We're taking this information and we're taking it to its logical conclusion. We have we know this, so now we're kind of going deeper into what it actually means.
Right. And there's so many channels that put together beautiful presentations of these things. And, with what I do and what Wheels does, I used to do presentations, but I don't anymore because there's people that have way more better, like, I don't know, they're artists when it comes to it. So this is an unpacking. Is that better, Wheels? Calling it an
Yeah,
unpacking?
I would say that, cuz my thing too is, I've tried to sit down and write a scripted video or whatever. And I can't do that. I have to write myself some notes and then
Mhm.
go do that, yeah, and read my notes and cover my points cuz the thing I think with me is that I feel like if I try to control everything I say too much with a script or a presentation style, I'm going to lose my own presentation style, like the way that I speak to people, which obviously this argument or this audience likes to hear like the way that I present information, and I don't want to start reading it off like a robot. You know
Right.
what I mean? Cuz if you're on YouTube and you're listening to someone, you probably you probably are listening, and this is not me tooting my own horn at all. What I just said, just so you guys understand. But I just think if you're on YouTube and you're listening to a person present information, it's because you want to hear that person present information like a person. There are plenty of YouTube channels that have robot voices that read text now, which I don't know why that became a thing and why those
Oh.
became popular.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I can't stand that. Just on like a little side rant, I can't stand those AI voices. And I know why it became popular. It's probably like one of those things that's just been pushed to get us used to, like, robots, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Robots doing what people would normally do.
Yeah, wheels. I had a car, and my car was very intelligent, apparently.
Mhm.
And I couldn't stand it always telling me what to do. I don't know. Is that a personality thing? I felt like the car was trying to control me. It's like, seriously, shut up, car.
Was
Leave
your
me
car
alone.
kit?
It's gonna send text to my phone about my freaking car, but not to get vulgar. But yes, it is to get us all very adapted to being reliant on technology. Ugh.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that.
So anyway, I also don't want Murphy's Law to think that she was just attacked. You said something which was right, and then we built off of it with
Yeah,
expression.
I was gonna say that. Like, I hope. Like, I was gonna say that because I feel bad because I felt like, on the one hand, I had to say something about that, but, like, on the other hand, I was not trying to come at it in a rude way. I hope I wasn't rude. Feel free to tell me if I was, anybody that was just listening, because I want to make sure that I'm not, like, not being a dick unnecessarily to people either, even if I have to say something to them.
Oh no, I mean I think they're just my personal. I know that you had a long conversation. I was on there with her too the other night, and so I think she knows that you're not like that. It's just our guests, our generous hosts, don't like certain buzzwords, and they're very nasty about it.
Right. That's why I
Yeah,
say we're tap dancing.
I don't
Always.
like. I don't think our lovable mother Susan would like it if if we're too direct about facts, and if we say, like, because I think even I worry, and I don't know how warranted of a worry this is, because I think it is actually a thing
Mhm.
where if if a person says something in chat, that also can affect your channel's longevity. I'm pretty sure. So
Oh, I
I
believe that.
I'm
I believe that.
being extra cautious.
Well,
Being
I've been on channels that have like 50K subs, 100K subs. Some of them are way up there. And even they are trying to tap dance around things. And they're like, don't type in all caps because even that triggers something. So, yeah, I mean, we're on this platform. Wheels is out here, putting himself out here for all of us. But back to the topic. All
Yeah,
right. I
we'll
think
get
we've
to.
explained ourselves enough on that one.
I wonder if I'll get to see those lovely people that glow in the dark again. Let's see.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Oh, government people. That's
Oh,
just
cool.
another way of saying that. I've, you know. Anyway,
Yeah,
getting off that subject.
please. Well, I'll probably be audited this year and be like, wait,
Yeah.
why am I audited? Who knows how they work, you know?
Yeah.
What is it,
So
Lois Lerner? Lois Lerner figured out who you are, and now you're gonna be audited.
yeah. So anyway, well, but on to that stuff. On to some other things. I forget where I was going with the first train of thought. I just didn't want anyone to
think we were talking about the government purges of people and
Yeah,
replacing with
yeah.
robot instruments, and how the military's been
Yeah, so
purged, so you get only the oppressive people, the cops, same thing, doctors.
Yeah, with medical also.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So that was my point. So first it's gonna start off with the people that don't want to go along with it, like cops, military, medical, because they need the oppressive, they need the schoolyard bullies. And
Mhm.
what's the best way to get rid of everyone that's not one of the schoolyard bullies? Mandate that thing and see who takes it and who is willing to shill it to everyone else, because I think I might have been telling you, Mary, and I won't get too far into this. I forget if it was in voice chat or if we were just talking, but I remember I was in the hospital a few weeks ago, and there was, like, before I left the hospital, there was a lady who came in and wanted to talk to me about the new juice that they have. The one
okay.
for the extra special new um strains, I guess. And she, they were still they were still like really pushing it, and they were saying, oh, like this lady, this nurse, literally, like this nurse, like this, what do they call them, like floor managers or whatever, like the head nurse of the floor that I was on or whatever the hell.
Nurse Ratchet.
Well, yeah, she kind of reminded me of Nurse Ratchet. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but for real, you know. But that's, yeah. So Nurse Ratchet came in and was telling me about how I gotta get the thing, because if I don't get the thing, I could get really sick and all this stuff. And so, like, the the more that you're willing to push, the higher you climb, and the more people you get to push around. So they're really catering to the schoolyard bullies. Like, they know that there are just some people that just really, there's like kind of two types of sheeple, I think. There's like the people that want their mommy and daddy, for lack of a better term. They want their mommy and daddy. They want someone to tell you, they want someone to tell them what to do. How to feel, how to think, how to drive their car, apparently now.
Mhm.
You know, oh, you look down at your center console. Look up at the road. Your car's gonna yell at you.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a function, I think, that, and this is maybe getting way too esoteric, perhaps, but that these people never had parents, really. I
Mm.
mean, in the modern era, there's no such thing as parents. There's older children who have legal custody of other children, but they've everybody's become so infantile, and so dependent upon others that, and I'm not saying that, I'm not a victim of this as well, because I certainly can. It's certainly a problem for everyone, because if we think that we're not potentially impacted by it, well, that's where we're going to fall victim to it. But I think a lot of these people are looking for a parent, and .gov becomes a perfect parent. You have to, this is what you do, and you will be punished if you don't do it. You'll, instead of going in your room, you lose your job, or you go to jail, what have you. But they are looking for some sort of parenting, and without that formative parenting that they should have received as a child, um, they're almost infantile for the rest of their lives, perhaps.
Hold
Well,
on,
yeah, that's a
Fluffy.
good
Oh,
point.
I
That's a
was going to say there are no consequences, though. A parent will send you to your room, a parent will ground you. You're talking about a system where there are no consequences. So that's even worse, in my opinion.
It
Well,
appears though that there may be consequences, but not for the people who are attempting to follow or who are followers, but as those who are balking it. For example,
Oh, I see.
the people who are saying, I'm not going to take that. You don't have no right to give me that, to make me put that in my body. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to be a cop anymore, or I'm not going to be in the service anymore. But for all the other people, it's like, yes, mommy, give me that. Give me my medicine.
yeah, that's that. So I think I mentioned it in my other stream. There's a video that I was trying to make that I had to record a bunch of times. Eventually, I stopped trying, and I still want to record it, but like every time I do, and every time I go back and I listen to this World Economic Forum podcast, every time that I do that, I take away something different. And then one day I was listening to it and I was about to make my notes and stuff like that. And suddenly it occurred to me, I'm like, they're talking to people in this podcast as if they are the good child. The good child. Cause how sometimes you'll have let's say Susie's not getting good grades, but Jack is. Susie's not doing her chores, but Jack is. Parents might sit down with Jack and be like, "Hey, can you maybe get Susie to do her chores? Can you maybe talk to her and all that stuff?" And I've noticed that cuz we've had a lot of, for lack of a better term, we've had a lot of useful idiots over the past 3 years, right? Useful idiots that want to be the good kid, the goody two shoes, and they want to help the parents rein the other kid in. You know what I mean?
No.
Oh yes,
I'm kind of
I
lost.
think
Do you get it, Fluffy?
Yeah, no, I think that's, and this is the where we get the types of people here. Is they're the types who obey authority and the types who like authority, and they're the two types of people who are pushing this narrative. And what he's saying, I believe, is it's sort of okay. You get one to coerce the others, who is not necessarily the oppressive one, but the one who's going to give the carrot and be like, oh, you should really, I don't know if the virtue signalers or not, but it's the type of people like, oh, you should really comply. And you know what? I don't want to get you sick. And they are useful in pushing this narrative. Borrow the term from Marx, I believe, which is the useful idiots, that are going to go along with it. But they're not necessarily the ones who are the oppressors or the ones who are pushing it, creating the narrative. They're just the ones who are perpetuating it. If I understand,
I think I do have a hard time with that also. Now that it's been explained twice, because I do know in my town, with the lawn signs and things like that, and
oh God,
everybody
not the
has.
lawn signs.
Well,
Oh no.
I'm just coming from my own personal experience. All right. So forgive me if it's ultra basic and I'm not as,
No, it's not basic. It's not basic. It's just that those lawn signs are horrible.
So, but these
Tell me about the lawn signs, because I don't live in Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, you live in a state that's just as equal.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. I do know what you're talking about with the lawn signs, because every freaking Californian person in this town that has a place to put a sign has one of these signs. I used to, when I was in the other living situation that I was in before, I would walk by this house every day on my way to work. And it was like a whole bunch of these really, virtue signaling signs, like the BLM and the "in this house we believe that science is real."
Yeah.
And
because everyone else believes it's fake. There's no such thing as science. What?
Science is never settled. I will say that, but Those okay, so those lawn signs, and apparently in every town around me, we've been celebrating Pride for since June. All right, we're at the end of November. All right, so these people love their lawn signs. And those are the people that you talk to, and you can see the wires sparking in their brain. Like there is no connection, and literally sparks are coming out, and you're just, and they're not kind, and they're not useless, cannon fodder. They're a bunch of assholes. So that's just my perspective on that one point. They're mean. They turn vicious quickly.
Well,
And
that's
I
the
have seen
oppressor.
it.
That's the oppressor wing, isn't it? I think that
But these
Wheels
are
is
just my
touching on.
neighbors,
Yeah,
Fluffy. So
yeah.
my neighbors, how are all of my neighbors the oppressive wing?
Well, it's
No,
Massachusetts.
no.
Massachusetts.
here's the thing though.
Yeah.
It's not so black and white. People can fit, obviously people can fit in more than one box, and we should be very wary of our very human tendency to shove people into one box or another. But I
Mhm.
will say that the people that try to act like they're the best people, the ones that care about, I don't know, black people, gay people, what have you, they're the ones that have to make the people that have to make the biggest deal about how nice and good they are always the worst people. In my opinion, just in my experience of life. If there's somebody that's really, really making an effort to prove how good of a person they are, they're probably not.
Mhm.
So we have all these people with the lawn signs, and I look at those lawn signs. I don't see somebody that cares about their fellow humans. I see somebody that cares about their image, like, because you can care about whatever cause that you'd like to. I care about people's personal freedom. You don't see me with a freaking "Don't tread on me" sign outside my apartment or whatever. But this is just the thing. When people are so obsessed with trying to prove that they are a certain thing, they're not. They wouldn't have to constantly say, "Well, I'm a good person and I believe this and I believe that." If they really believe that, they would show it with their actions.
That
Hold on.
reminds
I
me of a
will
Bible. Reminds me of a Bible story. Oh God, thank you. I am so not like this publican. I give my alms. I do my prayers. I fast. And thank you for not being like him. But one went away justified and the other didn't. Guess which one it was.
Oh, that's on point. That's on point. But also I will say that we have an area around me. So I'm in the suburbs of Boston. So a bunch of Looney Tunes. I'm surrounded. I mean, I will say that going to Clownifornia was going backstage at the circus, but being in Massachusetts doesn't mean I'm not in the circus also. So I was driving home, and I'm seeing all these signs, and I had 5 of my children in the car, and I was like, "Guys, if I was gonna put signs on my lawn, what do you think they would be?" Of course, my 13-year-old did say the "Don't tread on me" sign, but that's also kind of, illegal. That's a target on your back where I'm from, and my kids were, like, stumped. They were like, "I don't know, what sign would you put on our lawn?" My One of my daughters said, "Is there a straight sign? Like a sign for straight people?" It's like, "No, there's not, girlfriend." Like, what is there for the average Joe Blow out there? What's our political statement? And excuse me, that's why I think the truther movement might be growing, is because, like, not all of us are non-binary. Some of us are just like average people out there. We have our problems and we have the issues we want to bring to the table, but they don't fit in all these molds, I guess.
Okay, well, here's a thought then. Um, you know what kind of sign I would put if I had a lawn?
What?
Keep your dog off my lawn.
I would just be like, I would just put a sign on my lawn that says, "Will you guys stop with the effing signs?"
Mm.
That would be it, bro. I don't.
Actually, Wheels, that's hilarious because my sister said something very similar, which was she just wanted a sign that says, "This is my virtue signaling sign." That's all the sign said.
Or you
And she's
could
like,
put
I'm
one
gonna
that
get
says,
those printed up and I'm gonna put them on my lawn, you know?
Insert issue of choice here.
Exactly.
You know what else you could do? You could get a sign for your lawn that said just a sign that like you put it in like parentheses or whatever. Please project your issue of virtue here so that anybody can just imagine whatever sign they want on that lawn.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that because that would be a sign that says, I agree. I don't agree. I agree with
That's fair.
nothing of this.
But I mean that's fair. I would just do it out of fascination. Like if I could see somehow what people were projecting onto that sign, I
Put a
would do it out of
chalkboard up in your lawn and say, "Write your sign here."
No, that's not allowed on my property. Come on, you guys are
Oh,
getting silly.
Insert
because
free speech here.
because it is silly.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
so
silly.
silly.
Okay, all right. So Mary and Fluffy Maine Coon, you guys, you're Massachusetts. Do you guys get the bumper stickers too? Because
Oh, God
we
help me.
do.
God help me. There are cars that look like a patchwork that I'm driving behind sometimes that have a patchwork of lunacy, I would say. That are, whenever you see like a Warren bumper sticker, an Elizabeth Warren bumper sticker, you know that there has to be travesties pasted on that vehicle. Just although you do see some other amusing ones like, no Biden or something like that. But those are far between the insanity. The best one that I see a lot, and I'm sure Mary will say this is, what if the Air Force had to have a bake sale to buy bombs? I feel like I've seen that
Oh,
one more than any other bumper sticker.
I will say I did I told a story on my live a couple weeks ago, and it was me at an intersection. All right. I heard something that sounded like a fire alarm. I was like, what is that? And so my kids rolled down the window and were listening. I was like, is that a fire alarm? And my son goes, no, I think that's a whistle. I was like, that's not a whistle. So we pull through the center of town, and there's a guy out in the center of town. He was a Republican. He had a whistle. He had his F Biden signs. Or can I even say that? But I'm going to be careful. He had no, it wasn't a sign. They were flags. All right. So
It
he
was
had about 3 flags. Some of them, you get the gist of this dude. And he's sitting there blowing his whistle, acting like a psycho. Then
Mhm.
the car in front of me had bumper stickers all over the back of it, which was like a pro women, pro choice, abortion is my sacrament, LBGTQ. All right, not to offend anybody, but that person in front of me was the extreme of the dude with the whistle and the flags. And I feel like right now we're living in a world of extreme is oh, I can't even say that. Extreme sports, just not to get
Well,
Wills in
yeah, I
trouble.
think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Is that and in Massachusetts, I think you don't have really a lot of middle ground. You have,
Hmm.
you have a lot of extremism, and there's a more
It's
of
polar
extreme on the left.
opposites.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing here in California. You know, it's just people have to take it all the way to the extreme, and I think that it's obviously it's by design because realistically we're living in a well I call it a uniparty system,
Hmm.
but they have to on the surface look like complete opposites. They're
Oh
not.
yes,
They're
yes, but their
working together.
opposites. Yeah, but their opposites are in the fringe issues where they
Yeah.
meet, or high taxes, debt,
Yeah.
debt, slavery are all the same. It's just these fringe issues that they can appear like there's a difference, so that you have these forces to play off against each other, so that people don't understand really what's going on. It's all the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's where I was getting at. It's like that's where I was getting at. It's like they focus on they focus on the things that they know people are going to disagree with, and it's really easy to do this with like it's like either you're the pro gay party or you're the anti gay party. You're either the pro this party or you're in the anti that party. So
Hmm.
if you are one of those things, you don't want to be in the anti that thing party. So it's really so like for example with the like LGBT community, they have they have them all like they have them all kind of thinking like okay, for in order for things to work the way they need to, they need to get people, they need those one issue voters. So like let's say you're a gay person. You're like, okay, if I'm going to be a gay person, and then I need to vote for the party that says that they like gay people. That's that's how it works. And then you're just like, and then you got the like other side of the issue, which is like, I don't know about these gay people, so I'm gonna go to the party that is the more weird with gay people. It's just they get these people, they get them thinking about their identities, whatever that is, white guy, gay guy, straight guy, whatever your identity is. They try to make it so that one party, one side uh panders to that, for lack of a better term. Are you guys still here? What the heck happened?
Sorry, I get disconnected. I know Mary just sent a text in the chat that said that her computer died. So I think
Oh,
she's going bye bye.
okay.
So she said thank you too, as well. But no, I was listening actually when I was backstage what you're saying, and certainly I do believe that that's true, that they full made this razor focus on identity, um, which is, and a lot of it is just constructs for these people. Is it's what I am today. So there's no objective reality, and because there's no objective reality, they can change whatever they want, and then eventually someone's just going to say, "Oh yeah, I'm gay, or I'm trans, or I'm whatever," because they're focused with. And this is where the propaganda, I think, comes in too a lot. So yeah, I do think that this is a huge, the dual party, as you'll say, system is definitely a huge problem. And I would say that maybe the Trump side is the same way to a certain extent. is that they're
Oh,
they're
absolutely. They're playing off identity just as much as the other side is, for sure.
So I mean, I don't know, I don't know who's worse. The only thing I would say is, the woman with or I assumed it's a woman with the bumper sticker that says, abortion is my sacrament, is probably a lot worse than the Trump person. Probably a Satanist, in my opinion. But so I will give the Trump people that. At least they're probably not Satanists. Although Trump, I will reserve my my judgment on him.
You wait
I
a
think
minute. Wait a minute. You're telling me that just because a politician mentions God once in a while, they're not Christian?
I
I'm
know
so
you're gassed.
shocked. So
You-
I'm truly, truly gasping, sir.
Do you need a crane to get your jaw off the floor?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
I think it's now in the basement of this building. If this
yeah.
building
I mean,
has a
I'm sure
basement.
you have the same feeling that the whole Christians behind Trump was such a weird fallacy. He's an odious character, in my opinion. Did he do some good things? I will say for sure. The Supreme Court being packed by him to a certain extent. Yeah, I love that. But yeah, I don't think he's a good guy.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And he's certainly not a savior, which I think a lot of people did think he was going to usher in this sort of golden era of Camelot, Camelot 2.0. But no, he didn't.
Yeah, and it's like, to an extent, I understand why that happened because they were. You got to think too. He was flirting with the truth community. He was talking about, locking a politician up. He was talking about investigating 9/11 and all this crap like that.
Yeah, but he never did any of that too, which is sort of just lip service. And then he's going to talk about I was going to release all the aliens, this information and things like that. All the was it Project Blue Book? Is that what it is? I forget what it is.
Bluebeam.
Blue Beam, yeah, and I'm not sure if any of that ever really happened. So it's sort of like here's your truther, here's your truther conspiracy theory sort of laundry list of gimmies that'll give you, and everyone's like, yeah, we like that, we like those presents, and then you got none of it really.
Yeah, so like I think what was happening is I think the reason that Trump showed up when he did is if I remember correctly, um back in that time in the 2010s, there was a lot more discussion about the left-right paradigm, and there was kind of a bit of an awakening happening. And I think they needed to stem the tide. So they had, you had your Trump, you had your growing blatant censorship happening. You had like think about 2016. Trump gets into office. All of a sudden, there's like I think the first adpocalypse happened in 2016. So people started self-censoring,
Mm-hmm.
and it just got worse from there. So we got more. So it wasn't that like censorship wasn't going on. It was that like it wasn't so blatant that people were like looking and being like, "Oh, I got censored. I can't say that here anymore."
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a kid in high school, the political correct talk that was going around. But I mean, so that's been definitely around for a while. But you did bring up something that made me think about something. And I'll posit that perhaps Trump was a ploy to get the people who were slowly moving towards the movement of, we'll call it the right, the truth, or what have you. He was so egregious to some people that people who were moving more towards our way of thinking got put off. And maybe he was a ploy to put those people off. the path that they were going on, perhaps after the Obama time frame.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think I think so many people were, a lot of people voted for Obama. A lot, make of that what you will. But a lot of people, I think, had some hopes for Obama. And then when they saw that Obama was just another one, maybe slightly different face to the same agendas,
Mm-hmm.
they were really dissatisfied, I think, by the end of his presidency. And people were waking up more because of all the division that was starting. And I think Trump was put in there to, like, kind of cause more division. And then he was like, he kind of worsened, I think, for lack of a better term, he kind of was here to finish what was already started.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the case. But unfortunately, I do have to cut. It's getting. I know in California, it's still pretty early, but here it's getting a little late in sleepy time. I got to make turkey, and celebrate the massacre of Native Americans tomorrow. Um,
All right, yeah, no, I was
but,
actually gonna wrap it up pretty soon too, but it was really great having you guys.
a pleasure as always. Thank you, sir. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll do this again. And you have a good night and a happy Thanksgiving. Bye now.
All right, you too, man. I hope to have you guys on again soon. It was a really great discussion.
Of course, our pleasure. Bye now.
Bye. Okay, that was the stream. I just wanted to apologize to Brandon Spencer as well. I, he was in the backstage, and I was gonna try and let him in soon, but I think I made him wait a little bit too long, and I just so, like, in a train of thought. I don't know. I it was great having everybody though. I do have some things that I have to also do for this lovely holiday. It's been great having everybody. I want to say goodnight to Guacamole Kid, now that I know who you are. Murphy's Law, M10 and Maine Coon. It was very good to have you, M10. Very awesome. It's just been a great night, honestly. I really enjoyed sharing my little train of thought with all of you guys, and having people to bounce my ideas off of and starting a discussion. Also, sorry I didn't get to the chat as much as I normally do during these streams. But I hope to have another one soon, and I will see you all later. Bye. Where's the exit button? Jeez.